Man, I wish when I got my first job out of high school, being a custodian, if I was just taking some of that paycheck and investing at 18, 17, 18 years old to now, 10 years later, that would have been phenomenal. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. It's all about time and how early you start and just, learning the process. That would be my biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree. Educate yourself early and then start investing as soon as possible.
You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their current portfolio allocation. Now to your hosts, Clark Sheffield and Jace Mattinson.
Welcome to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 190. Clark, we're getting pretty close to 200. I can't wait for our 200 millionaire coming up here on episode 200.
Yep, exactly. Talking 200. We were just talking used cars. Pretty crazy market right now, right?
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, between the pandemic causing shortages and all sorts of things, especially the chips that go on some of these new vehicles, anyone that I've talked to that's either been in the market for a new car or has bought a new car recently, everything was delayed for any of the new cars. And on the used cars, it's been almost to what it has been with the houses, where it's been like almost a bidding war, fastest they can get there and buy it and pay cash and move on. It's getting pretty crazy.
Yeah, I spoke to a friend who said they bought a car, I think over a year ago now. And he's like, look, we can't find, I think they spent 22 or 25 or something. And he said, we can't find anything under 30 now. I mean, we could sell this car. We put miles on it. We could sell this car that we bought a year ago and make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So what's driving it? Is it just a chip shortage?
I think it's a bunch of different
Obviously,
things.
People buying more with COVID and everything too.
Yeah, I mean, there's more stimulus money, right? More things in the market. And I think you had a ripple effects, right? A lot of people were at home. It was like, man, I want to go do something. So it's like, well, I'm still working. Well, let's freaking go buy a new car, or let's sell a car and get a different one, or, and then you had the just general supply and demand for these things in general. And then you had all the supply shortages and issues in all sorts of different sectors, I think, that have played into this. I read an article a little bit ago about a couple different plants that, they just got 4 trucks just sitting in lots waiting for their chip to get input or installed so that they can go to the dealer lots and be sold. But right now they're just sitting in lots. And my brother-in-law had an issue. He bought a new SUV and it was super delayed waiting on its chip. So I think there's a lot of that out there. And then because of that, it trickles down into the used car market, which is probably why some of these used car prices have gone up a little bit. Same thing that kind of happened with bikes in the middle of the pandemic. I had a bike that I hadn't really ridden in quite a few years. I was saving. My wife's like, yeah, you gotta get rid of that. And I never did. Pandemic hit. I was like, dude, I'm selling this thing. I had 50 some offers in one day. People were trying to pay more than I was asking for it and stuff, trying to get bikes because you couldn't get them anywhere else. And this is a bike that I bought, in like the mid 2000s. So that's happening with cars. I mean, it's just all sorts of different things that we're seeing price inflation because I think supply and demand economics did a lot of people. Maybe we took a college class or high school class and now we're like living it. We don't really think much about it. And now we're living it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this article says, not a great time to buy. Used car prices skyrocket with low inventory. According to CarDriver.com, nationally used car prices are currently up an average of 15% compared to the spring of 2020.
Interesting. Yeah, I totally believe it. I mean, I'm selling 2 cars right now. It's crazy. I just bought one. We had an upgrade. We're having another child, so we needed to kind of get to that next car level, have a 3rd row. So I'm selling that one. I'm selling my old car. It's crazy. I mean, we're kind of getting them already, but it's like I've got the things basically sold already at a great price. I thought, more than I thought I'd ever get for them. So it's definitely playing out. So last week's episode, we had Jonathan, just at under $3 million net worth. And this week we have Brian and Amy, and their net worth is just over $500,000. We talked to them about their journey. They're super young, really gung-ho. We get into their story a little bit on their journey and march to $1 million, which they'll probably get there in the next 2 years or less, I would think. They're real dedicated, got a great story. I haven't had a husband and a wife on in a long time, so really, really excited to talk to them about their story. Clark, let's talk real estate right now. Everybody knows it's pretty hot. We're always looking for deals. If you've got one, bring it to us. We're definitely willing to pay a finder's fee. Also looking for new investors if you're interested in investing as well. Looking at mainly multifamily and commercial, but if we got a deal, we'll take a look at it. If it's in another sector, we do have a little bit of experience in some mobile home parks and also some storage as well. So looking at all sectors right now where we can get the best deal return. It's a different market, interesting market out there, but there's definitely still deals to be had. I want to get into reading a review here real quick that we received a couple weeks ago. We continue to get great reviews. Really appreciate you listeners and our millionaires that come on. This show obviously wouldn't happen without y'all. This one is from Davo1466. Think and Grow Rich for the 21st Century. Napoleon Hill many years ago interviewed millionaires to find common threads. In Millionaires Unveiled, you actually get to hear them voice their own stories. Each episode contains valuable golden nuggets of wisdom. Listen, learn, and be inspired to create your own money success story. Really appreciate that interview. What Clark and I have set out to do with this podcast has really come to fruition. We're going in 3.5 years now. It's been a really fun journey, and definitely really appreciate those that have left reviews. And there's been a couple that have been asking for some more women, and I got to tell you, we put it out there. We've got a bunch more coming on the show, so there's definitely some more in the pipeline. Really excited to launch those. Even have a female-owned business owner coming up down the road, and a couple others. So if you're interested in being on the podcast, reach out to us at millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. Also, if you want to talk to a millionaire, go to our website, www.millionairesunveiled.com, and you can voice in a question if you'd like to have it recorded or answered on the show live with a millionaire. And without any further delay, let's get into the episode today with Brian and Amy.
Brian and Amy, do you want to just give us a little about your background and what you're up to now?
Yep, no problem. So I'm Brian, and so I'm working professionally for 4 years. I'm 28 years old and going on 29, and working architecture field and just really digging into financial freedom, especially since COVID started. It really was kind of a foreign language to me. We're really looking into my personal finances, and was kind of just going through the motions. And then when I was really digging into a lot of this stuff, I realized it's not that hard, and it's just all about saving, investing, and then decreasing your expenses. And it could really change a lot and change your life.
And then I'm Amy. I work as an audit manager for an accounting firm. I've been working since January of 2014. I actually turned 30 in October. And a little bit of my financial background is more like I had a father who was really pushed saving. So it turned me into, a penny pincher and a saver as well. And it really encouraged me to start investing in my personal Roth IRA early on. So for me, it was just having a good foundation of a supporting family that helped me out financially.
That's awesome. And the net worth today is sitting where?
So our net worth is sitting at $455,000 about, and that's so about $225,000 is cash, stocks, 401ks, IRAs, and then the rest of it is in our house. Overall $455,000.
So let's dive into the breakup a little bit. So how much do you have exactly in the home equity there?
So in the home equity, well, I could tell you how much we owe, about $85,000. The house is worth about $314,000. And then, like I said, the rest of our money is cash. Actually, about $47,000 in cash, with $39,000 of that being savings, $6,000 checking, another couple thousand in HSAs, and then the rest of the stuff is just divided between Roth IRAs, taxable accounts, and 401ks.
I want to get into that in a second, but you've got quite a bit of home equity. So aggressively been paying down, or do you have a big down payment, or what's the story on that?
So we did have, we were fortunate to have a big down payment, and Amy could speak to this a little bit too, how our apartment.
Right. So, I had a bulk of the savings going in. So we did an $80,000 down payment. So it was a big down payment. And then we have been tackling our home mortgage because that's kind of our priority, is to pay that down.
Yeah. So, when we were living in the North Texas area, we were living in a 488 square foot apartment, you don't have to have the nicest stuff or nicest, fresh out of college. I see a lot of people get the high upscale apartment. It doesn't need to be like that. We kind of had a vision from the get-go of, we want to get a house. So just the rent is not a bad thing. Rent is only temporary, and you can be saving a lot of money while you're renting. And that's kind of what we were doing. And we went to that we wanted that 20% down payment. We didn't want the PMI. And that has saved us tremendously in terms of just being able to pay aggressively on that.
So how long ago did you buy the house then?
So 2017 of November.
Oh, wow. So y'all are going to have that paid off in what, another year and a half?
Yeah, worst case scenario, we're projecting 3 years. Hopefully, the best case, we want to get it in at least 2 years and pay down the 85 that we owe. And we're always, my philosophy or our philosophy is never pay the minimum, whether that's $50 more, $100 more, never pay the minimum. And we always try to save up an extra amount on our side. Take X amount of our paycheck, save that, and then every 6 months or so, drop a big payment that we can. Unfortunately, we can do that, and might as well do it.
Yeah, no, that's pretty remarkable. So when you get the house paid off, then what?
Really increase that savings rate even more. For me, like I said, the past 6 months, really been learning about all this investing stuff and realizing, man, if I don't have this house payment, we could just really be putting all
this money in investments.
Yeah, and just getting massive just time in the market and really be growing that net worth. And we have a good foundation, and I feel like, man, we kind of set ourselves up well. Let's see where we go from here.
5 years ago or so, it was paying off the house and having a debt-free house. Was that really the goal before you even bought the house?
So let's see. Let me step back. I guess the initial goal as soon as we got married was fortunately, Amy didn't have any student loans. I did. I graduated with $40,000 in student loans. So initially, that was first thing. Let's get rid of the student loans as fast as we can. And we met in college as RAs. So just a side blurb to anyone out there: if there's an RA posting at your college, do it. That saves a tremendous amount of money.
Free room and board.
Free room and board, free meal plan. And I cannot tell you how much that's benefited our lives after college. So yeah, that was the initial goal. Hey, pay off these student loans. And then let's start. We were in about a year and a half in that apartment. Let's start saving up, X amount, $1,000 from our paycheck every 2 weeks. And let's just put in a savings account, put in savings and try to reach that goal, and just go from there.
And my personality too is like, I don't want any debt. So the idea of having, $213,000 in debt, like whatever we started with after our down payment it's just scary to me. And I just think, all that money could be going somewhere else instead of paying interest. So a lot of that was just paying down the debt was a big focus for me personally.
Yeah, no, interesting. It's an interesting topic and something Clark and I have discussed at rather lengthily recently, mainly because a majority of our millionaires have chosen not to pay off their house. And that's been an interesting discussion with them, why or why not. But those that haven't have been those that are, I guess, I wouldn't say older millionaires, but those that have achieved that status later. The ones that are younger, for the most part, have either chosen to keep a very low mortgage balance or, like y'all, get to the point where it is paid off, at a super early age. So it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, y'all are super young, how this plays out, as you continue to pay this down. And then going forward, like you said, you'd be able to be putting all that to investments or lifestyle or whatever you want. So let's break down the money you've got invested in retirement accounts. Is that stocks, bonds, equity, or mutual funds? What's the breakup there?
Yeah, so a lot of it is stocks. We have about about 145,000 in stocks, which makes up about 80% of our retirement, and then 15% in bonds, about 30,000. And then 3% in alternative, REITs, and then 2% in cash. And that's just all from our Vanguard accounts. And most of it is, we got quite a bit of index funds and some actively managed funds. So when I started digging into all of this and learning about I guess you'd say the power of the index fund and just how simple it can be. So a lot of it is VTSAX, and then we have some growth index funds. a few of the actively managed that Amy kind of carried over from. She was investing a lot earlier than I was, which that's my biggest regret, is learning about this just now and not maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
I was investing early, but it was in the Wellesey and Wellington Fund, which is more like a 40% bond, 60% stock. And after Brian started doing a lot of research, I've switched that over to be more stock weighted.
Interesting. So, Amy, you started investing much earlier. Was that in college, or was it just right after college when you got your first job?
It was during college. I wouldn't say maybe my junior and senior year of college, but then, continuing it on whenever I started work. So kind of around that, I think it was around that middle time frame.
Yeah. And was that something that you had discussed with your parents or friends or college professors, or what drove the interest there when you were that young?
Honestly, it was my father, him being a big saver and knowing, the power of time when you invest it in your retirement is why I invested so early. He was the one who was pushing me, like, invest, put down the $6,000 each year into your Roth IRA account.
So, I mean, you're 19, 20, 21 years old or whatever, let's call it. Your father's telling you this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most kids, they're thinking about beer money, right? Or the next party. How did you have the discipline to go ahead and do that? Most kids at that age, like, they're not going to take their parents' advice, right?
Man, I don't know. I think my dad was just so cheap and so frugal growing up that just turned me into that same person. So honestly, the thought of like spending money on beer or just like, spending out on a shopping spree was not my priority, even at a younger age. So maybe I was just brainwashed so early on, but it turned out to be in my favor.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So, Brian, when you all were dating and about to get married, and you started learning and digging into the finances, what were those conversations like when you started?
Yeah, I mean, it was one. Hey, Brian, you got a lot of student loans there.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, well, I had to be on some grants, but I had to take out, financial aid and loans because, all this investing, 529 plans, and this was just all a complete foreign language to me, to be honest. And then when we married, even, a couple years into our marriage, I knew Amy had stock accounts and a Roth IRA, and I thought I had one. I had set something up similar, and I kid you not, I was giving $55.55 to what I quote unquote thought was my Roth IRA in Vanguard for 2 years, and I'm kind of going through the motions thinking, hey, why isn't my money growing like yours, Amy? What's really going on? And I was it was always in the background and never really dug into it. And when I finally, sat down, and really COVID kind of slowed time for everybody, and I sat down and looked at this, I said, I was just giving $55.55 to a money market account. I didn't know about small cap, large cap, index. I mean, it's like someone finding Christ for the first time and they can't stop reading the Bible or whatnot. But so that's how it happened for me. And then once I learned about that, I said, wow, so okay, Amy, this is why it's yours has grown to what it is now. And so yeah, that's kind of my background on that area.
So you've built up this great portfolio. You've got the debt pay down. You're going to be 2-3 years out max, paying down the rest of the house. What are some of the long-term goals and strategies that you all are putting into play, for your 40s or 50s or even 60s?
So for us right now, it's just long-term wise, it's once that house is paid down or paid off, it's really upgrading that savings rate. And we want to be retired, 40, 45. I think finding out about financial independence, retire early, and just we're not made to just be behind a computer screen for years on end until you're 65, 70 years old. So yeah, long-term goal is to be retired around 40 or 45.
And when you say retire, does that mean completely walk away from any type of corporate profession, or do you have a side hustle or some other type of profession that you'd like to go into later?
That retired, for at least for me, it's just now the world's at your fingertips. It's now, you're not tied down to a job that you have to get that income. You have to do X, Y, and Z. It's what now? Now you have the whole world. There's so much that I don't know what I don't know now, and I can kind of restart and reset and take on the next chapter of my life.
Yeah, I don't really have a passion project. I mean, I like crafting, but it's not something that I want to do to make money. So honestly, after we retire, it'll probably figure out what our like passion project is and invest, our time in that instead of working behind a computer.
And is there a net worth goal or passive income goal that you're trying to reach for that?
Well, right now it's kind of the short term. It's, reach $1 million. Can we reach $1 million in net worth? Is
that what our FI number is, or what's?
Well, when I calculated it, I think it was 1.2 million. But yeah, just for now, it's just, reach $1 million and then see where we can go from there, and then, set the next goal.
Yeah. See what our priorities are whenever we do reach that, and see how they change, and then focus on the next goal.
Yeah. And that's kind of where we're at, just with obviously this very first goal. Let's get this house paid off. Let's get this out of the way. Let's increase that savings rate, and let's reach that $1 million net worth. And then let's see if we can get that 1.2. Maybe it'll go up from there. I don't know.
Interesting. So as you move forward, is this, I know y'all had mentioned that you've started a YouTube channel. Do you share these kinds of things with friends and family? Do they know of your level of success so far?
That's kind of a tough way to answer it. So there are some friends that have also, due to COVID, kind of gotten into FI, and, we went after the whole physical distancing kind of goes away. We want to meet up and talk more about it. With our family, I know, Brian puts in plugs and talks about, financials with my family and with his family. Would you say you get a lot of interest back, or? Yeah,
I mean, I'm starting to find out, at least across my own family, people just don't know, or when you mention the stock market, it's always kind of something scary to talk about, or at least for me, it was, over my head, and there's a lot of big terms, and talking with my own family on that same deal, it's the same sort of reactions.
So we talk about it with family, but I don't think we get a lot of traction, or they don't have the same passion that goes behind it to do the research and really look more into it. It's more like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then another thing, it's like, I kind of feel being so young, it's, well,
oh yeah,
what do you know about money?
Yeah. Who's this young guy telling me what to do?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So you both mentioned your families and your upbringing. Just maybe for our listeners, shed some light on how that played a role in where you are today, or maybe even seeing the mistakes of others have cautioned you against making or doing, and develop the habits that have created y'all to be so successful today.
For sure. So for me, invest early. Honestly, time is on your side with compound interest. So that's kind of my big plug. I think a regret that I kind of have, and Brian and I have discussed this, where we've maybe financially kind of tripped over the past. I know for me, it would be spending money on a wedding when it could have been a lot smaller, and just, I guess, wasn't really a priority in my life. Being married is, yes. But I was kind of being told, you're only going to get married once. You should really enjoy this time. Looking back on it, I know having a big wedding and inviting a lot of people probably wasn't a big focus for me, and it still isn't. So I think that's something that I would think more about if I could turn back time and change things.
Yeah. And for me, kind of, you talked about those habits and that upbringing. I guess I would attribute a lot of it to my mom, who was, my mom raised a single family household, and she raised me on her own, and, doesn't know about investing or whatnot, but can turn a penny into $1 in terms of saving, and always, just kind of being real frugal. So kind of seeing that, and then also knowing, well, I also want to have something in retirement, because, my mom doesn't necessarily have that. I don't want to just keep on working and spinning the wheels. So I got to see the other side of it. It's one thing to be frugal, but then, what are we doing more to it? And that's kind of, that's what's interested in me. And then in terms of things maybe I kind of regret on buying, I guess it would be, for me, a little bit too much house. Obviously we're attacking that house payment.
Because we're already in it,
Yeah.
But looking back on it, we probably could have gotten a smaller house. So we have 2,400 square feet, and right now we just have one newborn, but I know they probably don't build small houses anymore, but maybe we should have gone a different route or gone cheaper home-wise.
Is that a regret at all?
It's a little bit. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love the home and I love where we're at, but I guess for me, it's a little bit of a regret where we could have, paid maybe $100,000 less and maybe possibly be paid off by now. But you live and you learn and you make the best out of it, at least in my opinion.
Amy, you feel the same way?
I do. Yeah. Now that we've kind of done a lot of research into financial independence, just knowing that having a big home probably isn't. It is nice. Like, whenever we were living in an apartment, we had an annoying neighbor downstairs that would play music really loud all the time. So we love the idea of being in a home and we like being in a home, but financially wise, it would be nice to maybe be in something smaller and invest that money in experiences or investments. So I agree with Brian looking back on it.
Yeah. So why not go and sell it now and buy something smaller? Well,
I'd have to say that with our newborn, being as close as we are to paying it off, it's kind of like, we're set out to do this. We did it. Let's just reach paying it off and see what happens from there, and maybe sell it later on. But with being so close to paying it off, that's what that's our main goal, to just
set it
do
in
that.
our mind. Definitely down the line, probably look more into it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting, right? Like you say, it's like, hey, we want to do something different, but then like the mindset of like actually change, it's a lot, right? Like pick up a move, change everything. You're so close to the finish line. So even though it's a regret, I think it's important for our listeners to hear that sometimes just because you're able to change maybe the scenario, you're not going to for a lot of other logical reasons, right?
Yeah.
So I want to move into some rapid fire questions with the two of y'all. What's the most expensive pair of pants that you've ever purchased?
For me, maybe $60.
For me, maybe 40. I don't know. Honestly, I have pairs of jeans that I've had for like 7 or 8 years. So.
What about shoes?
Shoes, I think I bought some work shoes on a gift card for $140. That was the most ever on a gift card, and most that I ever paid myself, $110.
For me, maybe 60.
Dang, got some frugalites over here.
Low maintenance.
Well, what about meal out?
Now meal out, I do got to speak to this one because when we were first dating, when we were first dating, I'm trying to woo her over, do whatever I can, and I used some of my loan money. She was already kind of working in an internship, and I said, if this is going to work out with this girl, I'm going to have to go all out and just do whatever I can and pick the most expensive restaurant I can find. So the most expensive meal out was $220, and that was when I was a college student.
$200 meal, $20 tip for 2 people.
Dang, where'd you go?
So that was it
was called Hotel St. Germain in downtown.
Yeah, and they come out with this 6 course meal.
I'm pretty sure it was 7 course meals. You had like 7 forks, 7 knives, and men had to keep their jackets on during dinner. So it was honestly, for us being like straight out of college, me doing my internship, it was a different world for us.
I felt like it was the Titanic. I kid you not. I dropped a Brussels sprout while the guy
that was so embarrassing,
delivering food, and stepped on it, and I felt pretty out of place. But hey, we're here now, and we're married, and I guess it worked. It was a good investment.
Yeah, that's right. It was an investment at the time. You can't look at it like an expense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I've got a similar story like that too. When I was dating my wife, it's kind of funny. But so, what's been the most expensive since you've been married? I guess.
I think $150.
What is that?
At one time, we were in Washington D.C.
Oh, okay, yeah. So 150 at a nice restaurant in DC.
There you go.
But, we're very much experienced people too. So whenever we're traveling or something else, we don't hold back.
Yeah, totally. So let's jump into that. What is worth spending money to y'all?
It's traveling, it's experiences. Just another side bit. Our honeymoon. My dad, he gave me a Rolex. And I'm not a material person, and I asked him, hey, I'm gonna sell this. Can I sell this? And I want to use the money on the honeymoon, and that's what I did. I went on my lunch break, sold it. And I couldn't believe the amount of money they give you for a watch. It just tells time. And then we used that to travel
to Beijing, Seoul, and Tokyo for our honeymoon, and it was it was awesome. I mean, we would do it again.
Yeah.
Drop that money to go travel again.
So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely experiences and traveling. And now with the newborn, it's spending time with him and wanting to show him what we've been fortunate to see in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. When you travel, do you stay in nicer places, or you try to travel pretty frugal?
I would say frugal. Mostly all Airbnbs.
Yeah.
And trying, it's just a place to rest your head at night, and then walking out and touring and enjoying the city. So yeah, not too nice of a place.
For our honeymoon, we did end up staying at a really nice hotel in Beijing, but that was like an experience, and it was our honeymoon. But yeah, most of the time it's Airbnbs is where we try to go.
Yeah.
No hotels or anything fancy like that.
Gotcha. What's been the most expensive car you've purchased?
So that would be that was a year ago, an $11,000 2016 Chevrolet Cruze. That was our first vehicle.
Yeah,
Nice.
I haven't purchased a car. I've been given them from my dad, so no money so far.
Nice. So, what is not worth spending the money on?
Ooh, for me, big wedding.
Yeah. For me, I don't spend a lot on clothes. I mean, my wife will tell you.
Oh gosh.
I have about six shirts from college. Those free shirts that have just been going
Housing
on.
shirts, yeah.
Yeah, and shorts from high school, and I just have the kind of the same clothes palette. So I don't know how much I've saved in just not buying stuff of clothes and kind of material items like that. The stuff from college that we both have, we kind of just use the heck out of it.
Yeah.
And anything that's given to us, through wedding or whatnot, we just use it till it breaks and just continue to.
Yeah.
If we don't have to buy it, we don't buy it, and if it's given to us, it's fortunate.
Great.
Yeah, it's great, and if we're gonna use something, we're gonna use it.
Don't spend money on expensive vehicles either. I think the cars that we have are going to run them down to 200,000 miles or however long it can last.
Yeah.
That's also another focus. So there's kind of a lot of stuff to not spend money on.
Is there an item or thing or experience or trip out there that you do want to at one point in your life?
Shoot, I would love to buy a camper.
Yeah.
And travel just in a camper or an RV.
Go check out the national parks around the U.S.
Yeah, I would love to invest a good portion on a nice camper or RV, something like that, and that would be that for me.
Same.
Awesome. What's roughly your annual household spending?
Outrageous because of the massive house payments.
Well, if you weren't putting the extra toward the house, I mean, what's your run rate basically on your expenses roughly?
Shoot, that's a good.
I mean, how much would our credit card bill be each month? Like 400, 500? It kind of helps with COVID not having to pay for gas and other things, but
I would say yearly 30,000.
Okay.
Yeah, well, if you're not counting in the house, because we don't have no car payments. Yeah, that would be a rough guess right there.
Okay. And range of household income through your working lives?
Oh, so it's gone. So right now it's about
100 plus 70, 170?
Yeah, combined, and it was at 130 when we kind of first got married.
Nice, got great income, and so target age of being a millionaire. I mean, what are you projecting there?
10 years, right?
Yeah, at least that when I first initially did that 1.2, it was like I think I went down to the months 10 years and 9 months or something like that.
So around 40, like early 40s.
Yeah. So 28. We're looking 38. 39, 40 years old.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get there a little sooner than you think, given that your income's where it is and the net worth train's already rolling. But we'll see. We'll have you on again in a couple of years when you hit it.
We would love to be on. That would be I was curious of writing in an email. I feel like you got to be a millionaire.
Yeah, no, we've had a few on, and when we discussed this, at some of our intros, but a lot of our guests are not millionaires yet. Or, I mean, our listeners are not millionaires yet. And so they like to hear the stories of people well on their journey. And so we kind of made that mark around 500. We feel like that's kind of like somewhat of a critical mass of like, hey, yeah, these people are going to get there. The other unique thing too, and we just can't remember if we released this one or not yet, but we've had our first one who was couple of years ago at 500 and now is a millionaire. So we've had that kind of move and, in over 2 years now we've been doing this podcast and been able to kind of track the portfolio. And it's crazy actually to see in his life the fundamental shifts in investments and what he's doing now that he's kind of achieved that millionaire status of critical mass in his investments and stuff and what he's decided to do. But so I'm sure we'll end up doing the same with y'all down the road since you're so young. But is there any books or products that you would recommend that others might take a look at?
Yeah, I got a good list for you. So I only do audiobooks. It's the only way I couldn't picture myself sitting down and reading. I wouldn't get anything done around the house. So just, you're going to do the dishes, mow the lawn, audiobooks, and you would imagine you can go through a lot of books just that way. I would highly recommend Common Sense Investing, John Bogle, Work Optional, Tanya Hester. It Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. That's not really financial, but I would definitely recommend that.
Mindset.
Yeah, in terms of controlling your mind. Simple Path to Wealth, of course. A Random Walk Down Wall Street. I really enjoyed that one. But yeah, those are just a few of the ones I've really liked or would recommend.
Oh, that's awesome. And are there any products or tech tools that's used being millennials that help you?
Personal Capital, track investment.
Oh yeah. The Personal Capital app, which I didn't realize so many people used it to track your net worth and whatnot, and it's free.
Yeah,
it's just absolutely amazing. Don't go out there and buy all the ones they're trying to sell you on. Just use Personal Capital, and
tracks everything for you and what you need to see.
Yeah.
Is there anything specifically that you're planning for your newborn now that you all have achieved this at such a young age that you want to instill, going forward for your family?
For sure. We've talked about this actually for his first birthday. We have family that just amass so much toys for their kids, and that's really not a focus of ours. We don't want to stuff our, large home with a bunch of toys. So I think for his first birthday, we're going to ask people if they're going to invest or if they want to, buy a toy, actually invest that money into a 529 plan that we've set up. So kind of just getting him set up for college or trade school down the line. We're starting that right now. Yeah,
we set up the 529 and within 2 weeks that he was born, and we want to share that with our family and, invest in, like Amy said, you
don't buy us a plastic toy.
You go into some homes and whatnot, and it just gets overrun with toys, and it's just we really want to try to be minimalist in that aspect of it, and teach him to be the same way, and kind of share with him some of this financial knowledge as well.
Unfortunately, I have a nephew that's older, so we get a lot of hand-me-down clothes too, which has been awesome. Not having to spend money on clothes and a lot of baby items so far.
Yeah, totally. So just to wrap up here, what are some of the mistakes that you would caution others to avoid, and maybe couple that with some advice that you would give for somebody who's just starting out or maybe just beginning their journey?
Yeah, advice for me is, I wish when I got my first job out of high school being a custodian, if I was just taking some of that paycheck and investing at 17, 18 years old to now, 10 years later, that would have been phenomenal. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. It's all about time and how early you start and just, learning the process. That would be my biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree. Educate yourself early and then start investing as soon as possible.
Awesome. That's Brian and Amy, net worth of over $450,000. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you all. We're big fans of the show. It was pretty awesome.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Clark Sheffield and Chase Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website at millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.